Hello you guys. In this particular video we are going to be focusing on the volume of a pyramid, whether it be a rectangular or triangular pyramid. Okay, so we know that the formula for a pyramid is going to be 1/3 the area of its base times, that's big B, times its height, little h. So V is equal to 1/3 times big B times h. Now that will go for the pyramid of a rectangular base and for a triangular base. Now, the way that this was derived, we know from a previous video that I did on rectangular and triangular prisms, I'm sorry, look for that video, that any pyramid that has a congruent base, meaning the same size area base and the same height, is going to be 1/3 of the corresponding rectangular prism. So let me repeat that one more time to make sure that I said that clearly for you. So the rectangular pyramid is going to be 1/3 the volume of a rectangular prism that has a congruent base, meaning the same size or same area and the same height. So let's go ahead and look at our examples so that we get a better handle on what we are doing. Now, this particular example that I'm showing is just confirming what I just said in my explanation, where we have that 1/3 relationship between a pyramid and a prism with the congruent base and same height. Okay, so being that our formula is going to be V is equal to 1/3 times big B times h, let's go ahead and look to see what that looks like. I'm going to go and switch over to my drawings page. All right, so I've taken the liberty of writing the formula out. So basically, what this equates to is that a prism is 3 times the volume of a pyramid. And the warning is that the pyramid has to have a congruent base and height. Okay, so that's the warning there. So let's go ahead and look at our example. So if we look at our problem there, it says that the volume of a rectangular prism is 4 1/2 inches cubed. What is the volume of a rectangular pyramid that has a congruent base and the exact same height? Now, we're going to explain our reasoning. So, if I know that that rectangular prism, okay, has a volume of 4 1/2 inches cubed, what do I also know about that pyramid with congruent base and same height? I know that it's going to be 1/3 of that. So, how do I figure out what the volume would be? There's a couple different ways that I can do that based on what I know about my rules when it comes to rational numbers. So we're going to take 4 1/2 and multiply that by 1/3, or we can take 4 1/2 and divide that by 3. We're going to get the exact same thing, but we'll take 4 1/2 and divide that by 3. So how to decide which version I'm going to use? I can do either one, okay? So I'm going to take the mixed number, multiply the denominator here by my whole number, 4 times 8, plus 9 9/2. I know that when I divide, I'm going to keep, change, reciprocate. So I'm going to keep this first number, just change it to a slightly different format, change my operator to a division, to a multiplication sign, and then I'm going to take the inverse, or the reciprocal, of 3. 3 over 1, remember, is going to be the same as 3. Taking the reciprocal of that is 1/3. When I multiply that across, that becomes 9/6, also known as what? I would take this, my common factor between 6 and 9 is going to be what? My greatest common factor, because remember, I can simplify that way. Or I can just take this, and I know that this is going to be 1 and what? 1 3/6. 1 3/6, also known as 1 1/2. My unit was inches, okay? So I know that it's 1 1/2 inches cubed. That's the relationship. Okay, so now that we have that relationship solidified, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to our next example. Our example says that a glass paperweight in the shape of a rectangular pyramid has a base that is 4 inches by 3 inches and a height of 5 inches. Find the volume of the paperweight. So when we have a verbal description like that, typically what we need to do to bridge the gap, make sure that we have a full understanding of what's happening in the problem, is we're going to actually draw ourselves a picture, which I am about to do. Okay, so it says that a rectangular pyramid. I'm going to start off with the shape here. It's pretty easy to draw these shapes. I'm going to connect all 4 sides. Okay, now, again, not the best drawing, but it will do. Okay, now we have 3 inches. We have our height. Okay, that's going to be a right angle to my base. I know that my height is going to be 5 inches. So we have 4 by 3, a height of 5. Okay, setting up my problem with my formula first. Always your formula. I have 1/3. How do I figure out the area of my base shape? I am going to multiply that by each other. 4 times 3, that's 4 times 3 times my height, which is 5. Okay, so now I am going to just keep simplifying down. Okay, 12 times 5. Okay, I know that I'm going fairly simply. I just want you to be able to follow along with me. So now I know that 1/3, and the reason that I'm switching it to all fractions now is because it just makes it simpler for you to be able to see. I know that any number over 1 is going to be classified as a fraction, 5 over 1. So multiplying these things across, we have 1 times 12 times 5, that is 60. 3 times 1 is going to be what? 3. So I'm going to bring back my unit now. That becomes 20 inches cubed. Simple enough, right? All right. This was a rectangular pyramid. Now, in this last section here, what I'm going to do is I am going to use an example that is a triangular pyramid. Now, just as I mentioned in the last video, did I do that right? No, I did not. Let's spell that. Let's see, pyramid. The way, or the adjective that's used prior to the pyramid is going to tell you what the base is. So we know that it is a triangular pyramid, a pyramid with a triangular base. I'm going to do myself a favor, first of all, and I'm going to draw myself my base. And the reason that I draw this point is this is the point at which I will connect the 3 vertexes. Okay, so vertices I should say. All right, so let's go ahead and switch back over to our problem. Now, our picture here is just slightly pixelated, but we're going to try to make it work. Okay, so we see here that we have a triangular base. What are the dimensions for our base? Okay, so big B is going to be using little b and little h. So little b, in this case, for the base, that triangle is going to be 2.5. So I'm going to have 2.5 feet there. The height of my triangle here is this dimension. That is 2 feet. And then when I go back to the overall height of the pyramid, the height of the pyramid now, if you notice here, this is forming a right angle with the apex of this pyramid. We have this as 5 feet. All right, so that's 5 feet. What I'm doing on my drawing sheet right now is I'm putting down all of my dimensions. So when I come back onto my drawing page, I'll have it all done. Okay? All right, so what I've done is I've taken the liberty of actually putting down all of my dimensions for the pyramid. We have our base, which I've shaded in here. We have the base of that triangle. Remember, we have to be able to distinguish between a 2D shape and a 3D shape. The pyramid is your 3D shape. The base is your 2D shape. That's 2.5 feet and 2 feet for the base of my triangle. The height of my triangle, 2D figure. And then the height of my 3D figure is 5 feet. So what I've done here is I have substituted in my values. 1/3. We know that the area of a triangle is going to be 1/2 times little b times h. So I've substituted all those things in. We have 1/2 times 2.5 times 2, multiplying that by 5, which is the height of our pyramid. What I've done inside of the parentheses is I've done what's easiest. I've taken 2.5, multiplied that by 2, that gives me 5. I'm going to put 5 over 1 because I'm already dealing with a fraction, so I want to keep those things straight in my mind. So I want to convert this to a fraction. I have 1/2 times 5 over 1 times 5 again. I am simply simplifying everything. I'm putting everything as a fraction to be consistent. Okay, it's just much easier if I do it that way. And I know that people want to convert to a decimal. Don't do that. Okay, because if the problem is asking or gives you your answer choices in fractional form, you don't want to then have to go back to a fraction because people then, they don't know how to do it. So keep it as a fraction. It is definitely easier for you to put a fraction to a decimal as opposed to a decimal over a fraction. I mean, it can be done, but it just takes a few extra steps that we don't want to have to do. Efficiency, remember that. So 1 times 5, 5 times 5, that's 25. 3 times 2 is 6, times 1 is 6. All right, now here comes the part that we want to be very careful about, okay? Now when I convert an improper fraction back to a mixed number, how many times can 6/6, because remember 6/6 is going to equal to 1, so I want to pull out the number of times. So 12/6, that's going to be 2, 6/6, 1, 18/6, 3, 24/6, 4. So I've already gotten super close without going over. So I know that I can pull 4 holes out of there. What's left over after I've pulled 24/6? So 25/6 minus 24/6 is going to be 1/6. So that would be 4 1/6 feet cubed. Now I just said also that we can go ahead and approximate this as a decimal. When I approximate this as a decimal, it becomes 4.16777, okay, feet cubed. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and confirm that. I'm going to pull up my handy dandy trusty calculator, okay, that I've done all my calculations on. Clear our history. So 1 divided by 6, I know is going to be equal to, yes, a little bit of an error there. Okay. Teachers make errors too. All right, so putting that down, I know that that becomes 4.16666 feet cubed. Okay, so if I were to simplify that to the nearest tenth, that becomes 4.2 feet cubed. Okay, all right. I think that that is it for this particular video. Remember that the teeth on this video that were covered were 7.9a specifically, but we were inferring 7.8a, which is talking about the relationship between a pyramid and a prism with congruent bases and heights. Okay, so as always, if you have an additional question, please don't hesitate to ask me that question in class. Come prepared to one of our several tutorial or check-in sessions to ask that question. You can back this video up just to go back over something that you were confused about. Okay, and as always, I will see you guys soon.